Yes. All right. Today I'm here with the fantastic and fabulous Joe Rushton, interviewing Joe for the first time. We met a few times before. We met at HLC2. I remember you taught us the walking stick meditation one morning. That was Lake Macquarie when we had that massive storm, and some of us got trapped inside of the I don't know if you remember the
I do.
Yeah, tree were falling down, fire brigade came, and all sort of stuff.
I think we did our last class in candlelight, from what I can remember. There was no electricity. We had to light candles, and
exactly.
We had no computers, no presentation for the last day.
Wow.
So I remember it well. We did the coin drill together as well.
Yeah, we did the coin drill together. Oh, fantastic. Beautiful, Joe. What a pleasure to have you here. I mean, I have not this but a similar background as you. Like you had a like a chefing or a cooking career for a while, and food has been, and I guess is still a huge part of your practice and life and appreciation. And so tell me more about who is Joe. How did you get to the Chek? And I'm curious to get to know better. And yes.
Well, Giovanni, who is Joe? That's a loaded question. I'm still finding out.
Oh, good. You don't know everything yet. Oh.
No, I'm still discovering. I'm still diving into the mystery of Joe.
Yeah.
And that's part of the beautiful journey that I love, that I've really come to appreciate, is the diving deeper into me and discovering all the different parts of me, and letting go of the limitations of what we think that might be. So, I came from a chefing background, as you said. Quick synopsis. I come from England. I came out as a backpacker to Australia in 98, and never went home. And during that year of backpacking and working, I was fortunate enough to find a sponsorship to stay, which led to then residency, which then led to citizenship about 4 years later.
Oh, wow.
And I think within about the first 4 years of being here in Australia, within that first 4 years, I transitioned out of catering and out of the kitchen into the health and fitness industry as your typical certified 3 Cert 4 personal trainer through Fitness Australia. And that was my introduction into the industry. I just realized that I was losing the passion for the kitchen, losing the passion for food the way I had it up until then. And my partner at the time said, well, if you're not in the kitchen cooking, you're in the gym trying to balance your life at the other side. And I said, yeah, that's really true. And so that kind of inspired me to look into the health, wellness, fitness industry. And that kind of birthed that journey. And then I think I met Paul, was introduced to Paul around 2005, I think, if I remember rightly. And that was when he was over here doing, he used to do a lot of his circuit teaching, when he was back in the full-on travel days. And he'd be out, in Australia pretty much every year on his schedule of teaching. And I first met Paul in a advanced Swiss ball training workshop.
Oh, wow.
That somebody had recommended to me, and I went along, and of course, as many people are, blown away by you know, his knowledge, his skill, and you know, he really inspired me. I see Paul as a huge catalyst for change in my life. Awakening me to a greater potential, and I would, you know, absolutely attribute Paul as the catalyst of opening me to listening and connecting to my soul, and the journey has continued from there. From there, I went and did HLC 1 with Dr. Oliver back then, taught HLC 1. And then did HLC 2 and 3 with Paul and Dr. Oliver. They used to share the teaching of those 5-day courses. And I kept coming back. I was just like, oh my gosh, there's no way I can absorb all of that in just 5 days. So every year that Paul and Dr. Oliver were out here, I used to sign up and redo the courses. And I think I redid level 2 at least 3 or 4 times. And level 3 2 to 3 times, and you know, developed a beautiful relationship with Paul, you know, kindred spirits, I think, from past journeys together. And then one day he invited me to join the faculty. He wanted me to start teaching HLC 1 and then into HLC 2 and soon to be HLC 3, and that of course was a huge initiation for me into my teaching path and my soul path of really starting to open up and go deeply into myself through his teachings and through really living them. If you're going to be a teacher of them, well, for Paul, you have to live them. And embrace the principles into your life and own them and embody them. And then be, you know, a walking experience of what that is. I try my best to share from experience rather than textbook information and knowledge. I really try to share with students what my personal experience is of implementing the philosophy and the information. And you know, we can fall back on the science when our minds need it. When we need a little bit more understanding and conceptualizing, but really that deepens through the experience. So you really got to have a willingness to implement the ideas and concepts into your life and then decide if they're working for you.
Obviously, I guess that's also a part of not everything will work the same way for anyone. That's why there is not an approach that fits all. And also is what you making out of the teaching, I guess. And what is you, us as a person, that we understand, and that's is like you said, for instance, is a kind of an example is like you said that you did the courses 3 times, 2 times, and so forth. Is like every time you go back, it's like you're learning something new that last time, you know, the course perhaps from year to year, just in 2 years time, hasn't changed and it hasn't been modified, but actual you were more ready to perceive, to get that message that last time you didn't. And I find that it's fascinating sometimes. We're not ready for that things to drop in the penny, right?
That's right. You know, it's you know, there are many layers to us, and you know, as we discover those layers, we open to a deeper understanding, and as we open to a deeper understanding, we can interpret and take on a deeper understanding when it's shared with us. you know, when I went back the second time, I think I sat there and said, is half this course new? You know, because you take on what you're ready to take on, and you know, the capacity of our lower mind to open to concepts that aren't making sense, or that we don't have the expanded awareness and consciousness to take on what is being shared, then we have a filtering system, and that filtering system, of course, you know, filters out what's not making sense or what's not relevant for you right now in your life, because, you know, you're not, that's not what you're meeting. You're meeting something else. And you know, teaching it now, having taught it for the last 7 years, I'm still learning. Every time I step into the class and teach HLC 1, HLC 2, I'm still learning from the concepts, from the philosophy, because I'm still opening up to, again, that next level within myself. And so how I'm taking on and understanding, you know, not just from the content of the courses, but also from the students. I learned so much from the students. You know, they become my teachers. Whilst they're students in the room, they're teachers to me. And that's, you know, that's what I look forward to, finding out, you know, what I'm going to learn from my students, what they're going to teach me. And that's what keeps every class fresh and never feeling like I'm teaching the same thing. And that's, you know, I think that's really important for a teacher as well, to stay inspired, and my students inspire me. So yeah, that's a beautiful gift, a really beautiful gift.
Yeah, I find that in the small of my practice, I find that when I get a client, when I get a new clients, I try to see what they reflecting back to me about myself, and what's going on with me. And yeah, that's a beautiful learning, you know. It's a good check-in, and check in with yourself and see, did I have this, you know, iron down? Am I completely honest with myself? Yeah, I found that really interesting, and really yeah, it's good. It's good learning. I love it.
Well, it's the beginning of, you know, that ability to self-reflect. You know, that's the beginning of awareness. That's the beginning of self-mastery. Is the ability to come into self-awareness, and we can only do that if we're actually working with the law of reflection. And you know, making a choice to look at what triggers us, making a choice to pay attention to the energy that we're holding and what that energy is creating in our life, whether it's aligned and creating, you know, in our highest potential, or whether the energy that we're being asked to meet needs us to work with it, to bring it into alignment. You know, to bring that energy back into balance. If it's sitting out of balance, then, you know, it'll be projected to us somehow in life. And, you know, we create from a consciousness that's not balanced or aligned to our higher truth, then, well, that's what matter is here to show us, because we, you know, create that consciousness into physical form. And if our experience of that isn't harmonious, isn't balanced, isn't, you know, if it's triggering and stressful, and that's fine too. It's just showing us where the work is to be done. You know, that law of polarity. It's there to support us to learn and grow, not beat us up.
Or us to judge it, and consequently judging ourselves, be accepting, and you know, sitting with it. There are million ways to describe it, right? What would it be optimal to be done in that situation? In terms of the I guess, your journey from hospitality base to obviously health and fitness and holistic health. You came from hospitality as a chef, background chef, catering, and you left because you were over of the hospitality and etc. Environment, and but then food is still remain a huge part. In fact, you wrote bulletproof rocket fuel food
on a budget.
On a budget, and then you wrote as well a book about coconut.
Yes.
Yep. And I don't remember the title. Can you?
All things coconut.
Yeah, all things coconut. And yeah, like, I mean, a great things that are obviously prescribed from you and from your teaching. I remember in HLC too, it was like, food was a huge part. And so did how did that light sparked up again for you with food, with your learning, with your journey?
Well, I've really come to come full circle in that, for a while I kind of turned my back on working with food the way I was within the catering industry, because as you would imagine, very little about working with food. Now of course the trends are changing, and restaurants are actually opening with an ethos around sourcing their food ethically and having a style to the menu that really speaks to the values of the owners, which is really bringing a very different relationship to food, to Mother Nature, to the animal kingdom, plant kingdom, etc. So the trend has really changed from when I was in the restaurants, where it was all about making food look good and taste good no matter what went in it. So a huge shift now. But for me, after going through HLC1 and HLC2 and really being re-inspired by the value and the importance of food as a life force to us, as a food of consciousness, then I went back and I went, well, what have I learned for the last 12 years working with food that I can now bring into this new knowledge that I'm learning about how food feeds us, nourishes us, replenishes us, and based on the vibration of the food that we're bringing in, it opens our consciousness and it supports the soul to open and align. And so I really started to embrace the fact that, okay, I do know how to work with from the practical skill base of being in the kitchen, different cooking methods, an appreciation for flavors and combinations, an appreciation for how sugar, salt, acids, alkalines, spices, how to work with, the complementing of fats and acids and salts and that sort of thing, and applied that knowledge of cookery into the nutritional understanding. And that reignited my relationship with food. I started to explore how to create with food from a very different perspective. And that became a large part of how, in the early stages of my coaching with clients, those that wanted to come on board and work with me, I within a very short space of time, probably within about a year to 18 months of becoming a personal trainer and understanding the value of nutrition versus your workout in your gym, I incorporated a non-negotiable day in the kitchen with me. If you wanted to work with me, then, you know, your package, your personal training package included a whole day in the kitchen, which was a combination of going out and buying produce, understanding how to read labels on food packages, understanding how to qualify the quality of the food that you're purchasing, why you'd buy that over that, when it was this ultimately the same food source, and really educating people on you are what you eat, not just when you eat. And as you know, we now know you are what you eats. So that whole educational piece, and then bringing that back into the kitchen and making it practical and teaching my clients how they can prepare their food effectively, efficiently, deliciously, without feeling like they're compromising or missing out on their favorites, or learning how to, really appreciate their food so it didn't feel like there was a sacrificing or a going without, which is very commonplace in a lot of diets and a lot of eating philosophies that are to do with getting fit, getting supporting weight loss. It tends to go with this kind of I have to go without sort of philosophy, and you don't. It's the opposite. It's what Paul teaches us. And so incorporating that, teaching people how to do a 4-day rotation with their fats and their proteins, and when you show them practically how to do it rather than theoretical, and they're actually in the kitchen with you going through the practical application of, okay, here's your produce, let's turn that into, a 4-day rotation and have your meals pretty much prepped to the point of just putting them together or, finishing off the cooking. Then it's like, wow, okay, it's so much easier than I thought. But when you're just sitting there coaching somebody on the theoretical and they don't have the practical application in the kitchen, it's daunting, it's overwhelming. So I made that a big part of my coaching offering at the beginning. And of course, like everything, that was 15 years ago. My own coaching application has changed as I've grown and evolved, and as my path of what I feel called to share with with my communities and with people that reach out to me. The offering is different these days. I don't work in gyms anymore. What I find that people come to me now for is more the opening of their own self-awareness through consciousness work and through more mental and emotional support, and more what I call energy frequency work than. So I work more in that realm now than the physicality. That's of course always important, and I never negate that. Somebody wants to come and overcome their depression or their anxiety, the first place I'll always go back to is, well, how are we supporting the physical body? How, bricks and mortar, always got to come back to the foundations, and then work outwards appropriately.
I guess is a two-way street, isn't it? I mean, the food nourish the body and help us to relax if we are overstressed, and balancing our blood sugar level, and consequently balancing the cortisol level and our stress level. And then once that's done, I guess we're more ready to receive, and to the body itself is relaxing, and consequently we can approach those super important elements that then they influence decision making and consequences, choices, and the state of being, state of perception, which is probably one of the biggest influencer, I guess, the perception that we have. And again, we can go back to the fact that if you're overly stressed, your perception of the surrounding will be threatening, although perhaps not so vivid, depending on how long the person has been in that state, is it?
That's 100% correct, Giovanni. You know, from our perception is everything. Our awareness of what it is that we're perceiving and how true that perception is. What level of truth are we perceiving our external and internal worlds? At what level of truth are we perceiving them at? And of course, what we choose to eat, drink, and how we choose to move are huge contributors to that perception, and therefore to that level of truth that we're experiencing.
Yeah, I love what you share about that you had like as a part of your program to get people in the kitchen with you, because what I found, like you said, like most of people don't eat food. I looking at their 10-day journal and I said, you train more than me, you surf more than me, and you don't eat food. How you do this? Like, I mean, yeah, it surprised me, and yeah, but it's a great idea. And the things that I get from most of the people is, oh, I don't have the time. I said, wait a sec, we all have 24 hours. But again, like, is that perception, right? And that what you exactly what you said, like you got to show them. You can't just, for us coming from a kitchen background, or you know, it's much easier. You know, this morning I was actually in Newrybar having my coffee harvest, right? And
yeah,
by the way, you co-own organic farm and kitchen or cooking school in Newrybar. Fantastic.
In Newrybar, yeah. So we're like 5 minutes down the road from Harvest in Newrybar, and we've got Bhavana Organic Farm and Cooking School there that sits on about 110 hectares.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
I gotta come and do one of your courses when you back up here.
Yeah, we are. In fact, I was chatting to my business partner Greta just the other week, looking at dates for classes for this year, because obviously COVID had changed the dynamics of things and how we were able to do it. So we needed to accommodate that over last year, but we're opening classes up again this year. So yeah, you'll be able to check that out soon on the website.
Great. And so, as I was saying, I was talking with someone and I was explaining, he's been like considering to come and work with me, and I said, look, if I gotta give you 2 suggestions, just drink this amount of water for your body weight and never skip breakfast. And he goes, I never eat breakfast. What I do, the first things that I do, I get out of bed and I drink this massive amount of coffee, and then perhaps I shovel in a croissant mid-morning, and then I don't eat for this amount of time. And I said, well, that's, if you got to do something, just eat some food. How soon? Have a shower, do your things, but before you walk out of the house, just eat some food. And I said to him, this morning I got up and I had some bok choy fried in the pan with some good olive oil, and I got some sausage, and I got some organic eggs, and he goes, oh wow, fantastic, but I don't have the time to do that. And I mean, like literally what it takes, right? You're chopping up a bok choy, you're chopping up a garlic, and for me it's like no brainer. It's like it doesn't even take you 15 minutes just to prepare it, and then you know, if you put it at low enough heat, you can go and have a shower and come back and it's ready for you.
That's right. Right.
But yeah, I understand what you're saying. It's daunting for people, and for me, working with clients and talking with people is good to understand that they're actually I have a different perception of for that you know, for that things. So for me is much more accessible, you know, and therefore is yeah, but I definitely will consider that because it's a great idea. I've been thinking about it in the past to do like a cooking class for some of my clients, but I feel like it's probably more precise and going to the point by having individually, you know, having them coming to me for a day of cooking, day of shopping, and understanding and easing out the things for them. Yeah, that's great.
I think you can do both, you know, Giovanni. I think you can do both. I think there's a lot of value in, you know, if you've got a you know, a base of clients, I think there's a lot of value in putting it out there to all of them and say, look, you know, I'm going to offer a day where we all come together, you know, whether or not that means you know, doing it at your own home, if you've got the size of a kitchen to accommodate it, or you know, look
Renting
at hiring, you know, a venue. Exactly. Because then, you know, you're adding lots of other dynamics to it. But, you know, one of the great dynamics is that now you've got a group of people coming together, and they can then start to learn off each other. They can be inspired off each other. You know, your clients then can, you know, form a little group and share recipes and share progress, and then it becomes something that you're doing together, and you've got a little support group that are going to help you, you know, stay committed after that class. So, you know, there's always benefits to the one-on-one versus, you know, the group. And, you know, I guess for our line of work, it would really depend on what level of personalization in terms of customization of diet based on their challenges, based on their individual, you know, challenges of what they're needing. And if that's more personalized, then for sure, one-on-one. But otherwise, I think you have great fun bringing a group together.
Yeah. I've been in the last probably 6 years, I've been is that resilient? Is that the right word? Like keeping it away. Yeah, I didn't.
Resilient or resistant?
Resistant. Resilient is the opposite. Well, not the opposite, but it's anyway. Resistant to do it simply because I didn't want it to cook for people, and I didn't want it to you know, to explain it too much. And one other reason is because at one stage after HLC2, I was putting together this program of cooking to have it on my website and etc. And then what happened, involuntarily, I completely deleted everything in my computer, and everything was lost. And I can't tell you how much work I put in it. And I went like, stuff this. I don't know. That was a sign for me, like maybe I should leave the cooking away for a little bit. And yeah, like literally, you know, hours and hours, tens of hours in the work, and it was pretty frustrating at that time. But it happened, and that's fine. But going back to you now, food is obviously, you know, is kind of the starting point, right? And then we're moving into a more from the physical, we're moving into a more is it spiritual the right word, or what we can is that
It's really, you know, it's interesting, Giovanni. I was just having a conversation with a gentleman yesterday. He was interviewing me on his podcast, and you know, same kind of thing. You know, it's like, so you know, the spiritual, and often I think that we use the word sometimes with this again, this unconscious sort of interpretation that it's something out here, that spirituality is something that I'm needing to bring into my life when you are already it. You know, it's not something to acquire. Yes, it's something to awaken to, but the awakening is the remembrance of what you already are, rather than thinking it's something that you have to create. You know, you don't have to create your spirit. Your spirit is already present with you. It's then, of course, a choice to connect to your spirit and connect to your, what I would call your God consciousness, you know, without putting any connotation on the word at all. Again, that word can be very, very triggering for a lot of people. Was for me many years, until I really worked with all the self-limiting beliefs that I held around what that word meant. And you know, when I shifted that, then you know, now I can really open to embracing the totality for where I am in my life. And that's, you know, and that's the thing, we're all at different stages of self-awareness. And that's part of the beauty of the mystery unfolding. That's why, you know, it's a loaded question to ask, you know, who Giovanni is, who Joe is, you know, because we're always opening and becoming more of what we think we are. So yes, that moving from the coaching within the very physical realm and working very much at that level of matter, which of course you always are, because even when you move into working with consciousness, it's consciousness that governs matter. So we create matter, we create form, we create our reality through physical form, through our thoughts, words, and deeds. So, you know, when we actually look at what has governance over the material world, it's our consciousness. So, like you said before, it's a two-way highway. You know, you can't work at the level of matter with it not affecting your consciousness. You can't work at the level of consciousness and it not affect your material reality.
Yeah.
So when we start to come and work more with our focus on our energy and our consciousness, and how the energy that we're holding is contributing to the reality that we're creating, and we're looking through that set of lenses, rather than looking at the physical world outside of us and how it is we think that is creating us to feel, then, you know, again, it's a shift. It's a shift in perception. It's a shift in how we're choosing to relate to ourselves, and the journey of going inwards begins. So that is where a lot of my work now with my clients, it's really helping them to understand their interior world, and how that is creating their exterior world, and understanding the vibration. You know, we're in such an amazing time on the planet, as Mother Earth is receiving more and more energy, more and more frequency is hitting the planet Earth, and Mother Gaia's vibration is lifting. And that's, of course, what we're all feeling, whether we're aware to it or not.
Yeah.
And for some people that are less grounded in themselves, then that's creating a lot of stress and chaos and chaotic energy in their life. For others who have, you know, spent perhaps a little more time working with their energy and is more used to relating to their energetic nature, then they're recognizing that there is a lot more energy that Mother Gaia is starting to absorb, and her own electromagnetic field is lifting in its vibration, in its hertz, and you know, it's shaking us all up, and you know, starting to, when I say we're in a really interesting time, we're in the veil. I call it the veil. You know, more and more people I talk to are even taking on the language of, oh, you know, can you feel that energy, and oh, you know, that vibe, and you know, they're using words like energy, vibe, frequency, consciousness, and you know, these words 50 years ago weren't common in our conversation, in our dialogue. You know, they were words that were used, you know, in, you know, just particular philosophies or area realms of people's interest. You know, spiritual teachers will have always spoken of it. You know, people like Caroline Myss, you know, always been of that dialogue for years, but now it's far more commonplace for us to start relating to each other more vibrationally, energetically, even in our language. And you know, why I get excited about that is because clearly the veil of our experience as this magnificent light being, this being of energy, of frequency that's here, also as a physical being, having an amazing experience of what it is to turn light into form, transform light into matter. That veil of perceiving who and what we are is getting thinner. And the illusion of us sitting in the limitation of us just being matter, just being physical form, you know, the illusion of that is starting to be pierced, like a, you know, piercing veil, the piercing of a balloon,
and creating more balance between the two. Like that's for instance, that's what the interview and conversation that I had last night with Jator. That's what we got to, not as a conclusion, but as a concept that, you know, again, you need the physical body, you need the spiritual body, energetic body, and one without another one, they wouldn't be able to exist, or there wouldn't be some sort of imbalance, and this not matching and not flowing and not is incredibly interesting. And and as you said, again, for some people these 2 years have been creating a lot of shaking and ungrounding, and for other people have created the opposite things. And again, all of that is necessary, because otherwise we wouldn't be able to be Joe and Giovanni and or, you know, the differences of all of us in a large and etc. And so with all of that, your path of learning of and deepening of this spiritual and embodiment of light and I guess balance between the physical and the energetical body has has come from a particular school that you've been studying for a while, and you've been also teaching, right? You actually teaching, and so tell me more about it. Tell our listener what it's called, and yeah, tell me about it. I'm really curious.
Well, I was reflecting not too long ago that the two most profound, influential teachers in my life have been Paul Chek, yeah, and Inassa Mabu Ishtar. And the irony is, when I was reflecting, I met them both within about 18 months of each other.
Wow.
You know, completely separate, you know, and completely separate at that point, paths in my life. You know, Paul was, you know, teaching me and introducing me to this realm, and Ishtar was introducing me to this realm. And for me, I can only speak from my personal experience, you know, in the early years, you know, it was very much of, you know, how do I bring these realms together? And I came from this, you know, spirituality being something that I was acquiring, you know, until you come deeper into the, you know, the realizations of who and what you are. And in truth, it's very hard to put words to one's journey of unraveling one's spiritual experience of themselves spiritually, because it's a really hard. It's hard to put into words when you shift, when that consciousness shifts. It becomes something that you're now, you're embodied. You've opened and expanded your consciousness to the point where it's something now that you know, it's part of you. And it's really hard to define with words that transformation between when it wasn't to when it is now.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, I had these two beautiful teachers, and of course their teachings were so similar in so many ways, but they came from very different philosophies and different languages. But at the core of both of their teachings, they were, you know, really, for me, one of the same, but getting taught very differently. And because of that, because of the two different ways in which I was being open, there was this joining that probably occurred for me, you know, maybe only really five years ago, that I really, you know, the two, there was a union that took place, you know, that I could really feel within myself. And so Ishtar, she's a beautiful, what we call a master channel. She's an embodied channel. She channels the wisdom and the teachings of a council of ascended masters. So probably the first question your audience is having for themselves: who and what are ascended masters? Yeah. So ascended masters, from the word ascended, meaning that they are no longer in physical form, that they have ascended out of the physical form, and they are now residing in their light form, and they offer us the mastery of what they, when they were in their physical form, what they came into mastery of. And each of the ascended masters that, and there's thousands of ascended masters. Ishtar works with a council of 33, and she has trained for the last, she's been working with them, channeling with them now for, I think, 18 plus years.
Wow.
And so she's had many, many initiations and done an enormous amount of training on the inner planes with the masters. And she's been a channel in a number of other lifetimes, and not just here on Earth, but in other dimensions too. She's been a divine channel. And so here is her gift to humanity and her service to humanity to also help to lift the vibration and lift the consciousness of the collective of humanity. Her calling was to open her channel again to the masters that she has been asked to channel, that have stepped forward to her. And ascended masters, they always come in councils of 12 or more. And so 15 years ago, I turned up in Circle as a complete skeptic to what was being offered. And I had a really profound experience, one that, was enough to challenge my skepticism, and enough to be a catalyst, like Paul was, very much for me on the physical plane of what I was experiencing around my health, and to look at things differently. And Ishtar was a catalyst for me to explore more and open to a new way of being. And so 15 years of teaching through these two pathways, doorways, if you like, has brought me to really embracing in my life the teachings and the wisdom of the masters. And one of the greatest challenges I've been through has been surrendering to my soul's plan for me, surrendering to what my soul's purpose is here, rather than what my ego would like to think is my highest potential. And it's really been a journey of surrendering to my higher self. Even Paul would talk about the soul, the higher self, the higher consciousness, and learning to connect and listen to that and receive the frequency of that consciousness, and learn to have discernment over the frequency of that consciousness versus the frequency of the consciousness of your ego self. And they have two very different vibrations. And through Ishtar's work of the teachings of the masters and diving deeply into that, it's really helped me to open my channel. We're all channels, so I'm nothing special. We're all channels. We all are here anchoring through our pillar of light. We're anchoring our consciousness, we're anchoring our light. So we're all channels. The question to ask is, what is it that we're channeling? Are we channeling our higher self and therefore our higher potential? And therefore through that higher self and that higher potential, contributing to the collective, a consciousness that is in the greater good for the all?
Yeah.
Or are we, channeling our ego self and the wants and the desires and the, whims of the ego? Are we channeling our, shadow selves? Your audience, for what you do, of course, they're going to relate very much to understanding Paul's work. But in Ishtar's field of change and transformation and what we teach. We also teach all about the shadow self, the shadow consciousness. We call them shadow aspects.
Yeah.
And what is that? That's the voice that will tell you that you're less, you're not good enough, you can't do this. It tells you all about the limitations that you hold towards yourself and towards the world and towards Mother Earth and towards the collective and other people. And that's our shadow self that holds unresolved karma. It holds experiences of trauma that it's chosen to create. From that experience, it's chosen to create consciousness that's no longer sitting in divine truth.
Yeah.
It's now sitting in an illusion of who you are. Yeah. And therefore you experience the limitation of who you are.
Yeah. That one another things that it was made us laugh yesterday was for instance, is completely in the same path on the same way of thinking that you're describing right now, is about the wanting to be and working successfully as holistic health practitioner. And yes, okay, I was in particular referring to a post that I saw of someone that was to say, yeah, I opened up a gym and all of a sudden the universe provided everything that I needed. And I said to myself, maybe. I said maybe because my thought is like, yes, that's what my ego wants, be completely successful and all of that. But at the same time, which is the word, but is pretty powerful word, but is would the subconscious and what the subconscious and will provide as a challenge for me to in the way there, if you get there on for the vision that you have. I don't know if what I just said makes sense to you. Like at the same, it is there is always a maybe in terms of, yes, okay, you put in the energy into it, but also that comes from what your soul wants is different from what your ego wants. And yes, we can plan whatever we want, all down to the smallest details, but realistically, we don't know if it's going to happen. I mean, yes, of course, having a positive attitude and putting the energy is there, but if your soul purpose perhaps is not that, and the energy that comes through you says that you need to experience something else, you're probably gonna go, you're gonna be quite disappointed. That was my point, and yeah, talking with Jator and yeah.
There's a couple of things that I'd love to share based on what you've just said there, Giovanni, and I think I feel that this is quite important, especially for holistic health practitioners, coaches, those that are in our industry that are very attached to wanting to follow their soul's purpose. Yeah. I think for most practitioners that are here to and they're here really focused on being of service to others, there is this desire to know that they are creating in alignment with their soul.
Yeah.
Right. And then, you know, they're searching for that confirmation, for that connection. And so there's two things I'd like to say. You know, first of all, it's the ego, you know, whether we're creating from our soul's guidance or our ego's guidance, the first thing to really embrace is that both are divine.
Yeah.
Right? One isn't devoid of spirit and the other one only spirit. Both are there to serve us in our path of growth. Yeah. So, you know, spirit isn't standing over you going, oh, you're following your ego. We're not going to have anything to do with you. You know? Yeah. When our ego is part of the expression of spirit. Yeah. And the only, to try and keep it simplistic in our understanding for people to relate to, you know, the only difference is one is an experience of a limited potential. And one is an experience of an unlimited potential. Yeah. Again, both necessary, both needed to exist, coexist. Yeah. Yes, yes. You know, we can't come to know and have discernment over what it feels like to be following and allowing our higher self to guide us in life. If we don't have an experience of what it feels like for the vibration of the ego to be controlling and dictating and manipulating and pushing and wishing and wanting, and trying. And that's the domain of the ego. And it's not about having one or the other. It's about learning to bring balance to both vibrations so they work together. If we didn't have the ego, we wouldn't take action in our life. Yeah, absolutely. It's necessary. You know, it's absolutely necessary. So, you know, it's not one or the other. It's, again, it's the union, the divine union coming into a deeper connection to your expanded consciousness, your higher self, is learning to balance the divine feminine and the divine masculine consciousness within you. Yeah. Right? I'll come back to Paul's teachings. He's always teaching about the yin and the yang. The feminine and the masculine. And that there is a very different vibrational quality between the two. Yes? Yes. But one can't exist without the other. Yeah. You know, is day separate to night, or does night actually unfold into day and then the day unfold back into night? They're not separate, they're one of the same. Yeah. Constantly changing and becoming. So the consciousness of the divine masculine is the vibration, it's the frequency that it's what in the path of light, what we teach, the divine masculine is the light. It's a frequency that gives us the power to make a choice and take action in our life. Yeah. Right? It's the energy of doing. It's the energy, it's that light, it's that creation energy in expressing itself outwardly. And so it's very activating, illuminating, because it has you become aware of the energy you're holding and choices you're making from that energy. And if you're paying attention, what it is that you actually create from those choices. Yeah. And if you're paying attention, have I created what's in the highest potential from that choice? Now, you know, we could speak for hours about learning to have discernment between the consciousness of your higher self guiding you versus the consciousness of the ego self. Now, again, to make it relatable to your audience, you know, if you your higher self will always have a very subtle and gentle presence. It won't insist upon anything. It doesn't have an attachment or a demand. It doesn't have an expectation or a desire. So when you're connecting with the ego's energy, it often has like an expectation attached to it. It has an attachment to wanting a certain outcome.
Yeah.
It needs to happen like this.
Yeah.
The best result will be this, not that. It has to be this. It's not successful unless we are producing this. And it will have quite a fixed and when we, you know, experience a very strong ego, which another word for our ego really is our free will. You know, if we use the term, oh, that person's willful, they've got a strong will, what are we really saying is that they, you know, they can be quite pushy, quite, you know, my way or the highway. This is how we're going to do it, right? And so that's the energy and the nature of the ego. And of course, yes, the ego can be passionate and inspiring and you know, have in what it considers to be, you know, this is the highest potential.
Yeah.
But if with that there's no ability to bend, and there's no ability to adapt, and there's no ability to go, oh,
accepting
well,
the challenges and
and embracing a change of climate, so to speak, rather than trying to, you know, whilst the currents change direction, no, we're still going to go this way because that's the plan we had, and we're not diverting from the plan. Meanwhile, the currents changed, and now we're starting to feel a push me, pull me. Now we're starting to feel a conflict and a confrontation in the process of creation. None of that's wrong. But it gives us an opportunity to ask ourselves if we're flowing in the higher potential. Does the stream of a current and the water and, you know, running down a stream, when it's flowing in the direction that its highest potential is to do so? Yeah. And it's you know, really learning to feel when one needs to come into acknowledgement and acceptance of what is, and shift gears, change gears to, you know, adapt, and, you know, what are you listening to there? And, you know, again, I can only come back and share my experiences of what that is in my own life, and becoming, I'm so much better at identifying when I'm coming from a place of the ego. Right? I'm so much better at identifying that's the agenda of my ego, and that's okay. Yeah. And that's okay. And I've got a lot better at not judging that. And with that self-mastery comes a mastery of becoming more attuned to listening to your guidance, more attuned to allowing spirit to show you the way. Yeah. And it is a path of surrender, because spirit will only show you one step at a time. Your ego will show you the entire start to finish.
Yeah.
and every step along the way. And it will have planned out exactly how we're going to execute it. When you start listening to the guidance of your higher self, it will give you one step at a time. No, do this first. Because in reality, I laugh, Ishtar said to me once, you know, Joe, if your spirit gave you your entire plan, you'd run in the other direction.
Yes.
It would be so overwhelming, so mind-blowing for you. You would not believe its potential. So you'd run in the other direction, and you'd come back to the lower mind and the ego, and you would confine yourself within the possibilities of what the ego believes is possible.
Yes.
So that's what we teach in the Path of Light. The Path of Light is a 3-year self-mastery of learning. It's a journey of the first year is all about the light. It's learning about your masculine consciousness. Of course, it's got nothing to do with gender. It's learning about your masculine consciousness and how to bring that consciousness within you into balance. And then and we learn from the Ascended Masters. We're working with frequency, we're working with energy, consciousness. So what we are gifted each week by the Ascended Masters is an attunement, a frequency attunement, which is channeled by Ishtar from the Masters. And it's an attunement of our light body, of our 12 energy bodies. And it's an attunement to the blueprints that are held within the each of those energy bodies. And so what I mean by that is, you know, just like you would download a new program on your computer, because the old program has become limited. So I need to have, you know, an ability to do this now and that now, and I need this software and I need that software, because what we're doing is bigger and greater. And so each week when we receive these transmissions of frequency, they open up consciousness within your DNA at a molecular and cellular level.
Yeah.
And as they open up that consciousness, they're opening you up to more of you. And of course, with any frequency work, when you start to meet more of you, there are always going to be parts of you that are in resistance to the more of you. And you're, you know, taught how to work with those parts of yourself. That's part of self-mastery, yes? Becoming aware of those parts that are sitting in resistance or avoidance. And learning how to embrace those parts of you and working with the energy and bringing them back into alignment so that you then integrate that greater potential within yourself. And that's very much, you know, Path of Light is very illuminating, and it shines a torch on the you know, the consciousness of you, the belief systems that you hold that are holding you back. Yeah. And then Path of Love is all about learning about your feminine consciousness, which is all about your ability to receive. It's your receptive nature, and it teaches you where, number one, where it is, where are you going to receive? You know, where do you go in order to receive? And the teachings are there to help you go deeply within yourself, go into the voidal expansiveness of yourself to receive the frequency of spirit, of your own spirit, your own God consciousness, your own presence, and go and learn to open your heart chakra, which is this huge portal, this huge gateway that connects you to all the many parts of you across all time, space, and dimension. And as you learn to open those gateways of your heart chakra, then you learn to go and sit in that voidal space. that, you know, again, in science, in quantum physics or in physics, we'd call that the, you know, the vacuum, the black hole, the womb. And in truth, it is that deep, voidal space within yourself. It's the universe within you. And learning to let go of your fear of dropping into that space. That's what the feminine heart, that's what the path of love is all about. Learning to surrender your fears and resistance to dropping into that space. And as you travel through the second year, that divine union, you know, in the physical world, we go and marry the opposite sex to try and find divine union. On your spiritual path, you learn how to create that union within yourself, bringing divine union to the masculine and the feminine. And then the third year is the path of mystery, opening up to the mystery of you as you create more balance between those energies, between those complementary energies. That the difference is, if you're allowing yourself to drop and go deeply and receive from within you, then what you're going to share in the outside world is going to be very different to if you just go to your lower mind and your ego to receive. So it comes back to what I said before, we're all channels, but what are we sharing? If we're not going deeply within ourselves and accessing the most sacred part of ourselves, where we hold truth, wisdom, and love, and we hold the deeper truth of our eternal nature, then what are we sharing?
Yeah, it's like if you don't love yourself, what do you know what you're gonna give, and what are you giving to somebody else if you don't love yourself for who you are?
That's right. You can't give what you don't have.
Yeah, you can't give what you don't have, and vice versa. If you don't love yourself, anything is good, right? And what is good? It can be hell.
And that's a great teacher.
Sorry?
And that's a great teacher.
Oh yeah, he's an absolutely amazing teacher. And again, that's probably what I meant. Not probably, what I wanted to mean in terms of, you have all this project and you have this vision, and yeah, you know, that perhaps maybe it's gonna happen like you plan it, but if it, let's say it doesn't, and it has a lot of challenge, that's the learning process, and that's what you know is necessary for us to grow, and embracing that as, all right, what's, you know, waking up in the morning and doing your things, and also thinking, oh, you know, what's on for the day, like in terms of what is gonna this day bring about it. And obviously trying your best to learn from it and to sit with it uncomfortably or comfortably that you feel, and yeah, appreciate what it is. Yeah, yes, amazing.
So, you know, if anyone feels called to that path and that journey, our self-mastery course is complete for this year in terms of registrations, but you might be called to a year's self-mastery of what is called Open to Channel. And Open to Channel are I only really need to say that you'll be called to it if it speaks to you.
Yeah.
You know, and if opening your channel to learn to connect to your soul and actually start to receive the gifts of your soul. The gifts of your soul are very different to the gifts of your ego.
Yeah.
Both are precious, but one will offer you a higher potential in life. And learning to connect to the gifts of your soul and allowing them to be manifested here on the earth is what your soul's come for. Your soul's come to share its unique gifts as part of service to humanity, and allowing yourself to do that. Yes, that's a journey. It's an initiation. It's not an end point that we reach. It's a continuous opening to more of you. But having traveled the path and still on it, I would say my life is far more enriching and magical now than I've ever known it to be. And that is down to learning to surrender and opening to allowing spirit to guide me in life, and allowing for my higher self to step forward and guide me, and be gentle with my ego, and you know, the ego's slowly but surely becoming better at being the butler than the than the driver. So you know, and that's the journey, you know.
And so where our, sorry to interrupt you, where our listener can find more about this, the path of life, the path of love, and
just to my website, just simply joannarushton.com.
Okay.
joannarushton.com, and then just go to certified courses, and you can then have a look at the certified courses there.
Fantastic. And so you said that the spots for this year for the path of love is that?
Path of light. So that's closed. We're full. We've got 40 amazing students traveling through that course this year. That is going to be exciting and enlightening. And so that course the registrations are closed on that, but open to channel, that opens in April. Yes.
Okay. And is it self-paced or there is a coach or a...
Yes, so it's weekly classes, 3 hours a week. It's an advanced self-mastery course. So it's where, you know, really if you've done Master's Way, you go on to open to channel, or if you have been on your journey of opening to spirit for some time and feel called to go deeper and have a guidance and to start working with the ascended masters to guide you in grounding your higher self through your channel and grounding your gifts, then open to channel would definitely be the course that would support you to do that. It runs for about 16 months, so it's a little over the year.
Oh, wow.
And we come together every week for 3 hours. We start up, I think it's April.
3 days a week or 3 hours in one day?
3 hours. 3 hours on a Thursday night.
Okay.
Every Thursday for 3 hours. And then, of course, you have homework. You are assigned a buddy to work with. And Ishtar, about 5 months into the course, Ishtar sits with the masters and brings through your higher self that you're asked to connect with. And you're given your higher self name. And you're also channeled the beginning of a project that you are then asked to complete that project through the guidance and the direct connection with your higher self.
Wow.
And to bring that project through, ground it, complete it into the physical, but through the presence of your higher self.
Oh my God.
So
how amazing.
Yeah, it is amazing. It is amazing. And
wow.
Having seen, last year I had some amazing students come through, and you know, 3 or 4 of them were Chek practitioners, and having seen a couple of them, 2 or 3 of them really embrace and step forward, allow their higher self to step forward in their life. What they are now doing is 360 to what they were doing.
Yeah.
Their whole trajectory is now about following the guidance, and what that is creating in their life, the path that they're being asked to follow. It's very different. And, you know, they're on the path of surrendering and embracing that new path. But they, you know, they will also say to you that they wouldn't have it any other way.
Wow. Incredible. That could that could be up my alleyway, especially especially right now. Yeah, I find you know, I've been writing, you know, you write a lot of things down, projects and etc., and linear things, and but I find yes, that is having a guidance that is more less linear, I guess, or more coming from my heart and rather from my brain is probably the time, a time for me to go down that path. Certainly. Yeah.
Right on, brother. Yeah. I hear you.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, if you feel the calling, then listen to the calling. One thing to receive guidance is another thing to act on it.
To act on it, yes, exactly. You know, is it the penny dropped hard enough, loud enough? how louder you want it? The pain teacher has knocked enough. Yeah, absolutely. Let's see. Hey, let's see. Let's see if I follow my path, whichever I choose to follow. But yeah, sounds really amazing. Joe, I don't want to take any more of your time. We gone 5 minutes after our time, and I'm you know, incredibly grateful for your time and your word and sharing with me and my listener, your amazing story, and what you had to share today is priceless. And I won't even ask you, I mean, if you have something, if you have 2 suggestions, 2 tips for our listener, please go ahead. But don't feel, if you don't want to add anything else, don't do that.
2 tips. I'll give you 2 tips. I've come to really appreciate water, quality water, and the power of our breath. To me, water and breath are the gatekeepers to our consciousness. If you can commit to consuming, as you said before, body weight, so the required amount of water, okay, based on your body weight in liters, you can share the formula. You'll have it. Share the formula with your audience.
0.333 multiplied by 10 kilograms of your body weight.
Right, and that'll give you whatever the liters that you're working in. Okay, so for me, it's about 3 liters a day. If you can commit to consuming the adequate amount of good quality, clean, well mineralized water, and take on a conscious breath practice, those 2 rituals, as simple as they may sound, will start to open your consciousness to greater parts of you that you can ever imagine.
Wow.
And if you ever go down the road of learning a little bit more about what water is than what we think it is, and what our breath is, then you'll appreciate why I call them the gatekeepers to our consciousness.
Wow. Thank you so much, Joe. Really appreciate your time. Thank you for everything. And I will get in contact with you in regard to your workshop, your farm, Bhavana Organic Farm and Cooking School in Newrybar. Here, 2478 New South Wales, Byron Bay, Northern River. If you haven't been here, it's time to make the way to this part of the world. We're really lucky, and yeah, and I hope to see you up here when you up here again. And
most definitely.
Yeah, I would love to connect and come and see your beautiful place. Thank you so much again, Joe. Enjoy the rest of your day, and yeah, I speak with you soon.
And